Hello, hello. It's the 8th of February, and you are listening into Small Talk episode 7. Today, we're going to be talking about the engineering dilemma, or more so, I think the big words I've placed over there in the middle of the screen, which is simply go. So, we're going to dive in a little bit of the context later on. Don't worry about it. And let you guys know, I think, whether you're watching this live or uh, listening to this later on what exactly is this about, like how is this an engineering problem that we could be talking about, and how does it impact us engineers and non-engineers alike in real life, right? Just but because before we go on, just to mention a little bit about socials for Big O Development, which is the organization running Small Talk. So yeah, Small Talk is just this segment, podcast related segment that where we used to discuss different issues affecting society, affecting our careers in this industry, and how we can help uplift each other, help each other grow. All right, so yeah, on to today's topic. All right, the engineering dilemma, simply go. But before I begin, I would like to bring in a few of my guests today. So let me bring them in one by one and introduce them. So first off, we have Hairizuan. Yay! Hey,
Hello
Hairizuan.
there. This is like so
So
many
he,
times already.
yeah. So he's a DevOps engineer from Kiteworks. Some of you might have seen him or remember him. I mean, not might have seen him. You have seen him many times, but yes, he's a DevOps engineer from Kiteworks. Okay, and next, bringing in Koo. Hey, Koo. So he's the co-founder, Practicum director of DataScience Rex. So welcome, welcome.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me back here again.
All right. So before we jump into this topic today, I just want to build in a very quick context for I think anyone who is maybe listening to this, especially if let's say you are not a Singaporean or residing in Singapore for the last 1 month, which is around January of 2024. Okay, so just to build the context, okay, so this is pointing towards Straits Time articles. For those who are listening in, essentially, if you search online, Straits Time, SimplyGo, you will immediately be able to find references to articles talking about this announcement by the government or essentially by LTA, announcing that they are going to essentially discontinue the older EasyLink card systems in favor of SimplyGo. And the set date was supposed to be by the 1st of June. The old system will be discontinued, or at least for just the EasyLink card systems, not for the concession cards. You can also see that there was a time period where, as this migration began, possibly maybe not so well planned. There's a bit of load issues happening to this Simply Go app, and as a result of that, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle. Like I think outreach from people, mentioning about this. But beyond just the load issues, right? I think much more than that. There are also two main reasons where most of us have seen why people felt that they were affected and felt that this migration wasn't that good. One of it being that if you see again on the screen over here, and for those listening offline, the issue is that in migrating from the EasyLink card, the older EasyLink card, as well as the Nets Flash Pay card, which is the older EasyLink variant, they actually supported a whole range of functionalities from public transport, retail, and motoring. Okay, but the new Simply Go card does not support motoring. Okay, so it's when you're doing upgrades, especially for software engineering, usually upgrade is supposed to be more features, or at least like not removing away like current features people are using. So this was something that caused a little bit of outrage within people. Then another thing was that again the loss of another feature. So again, bringing up another image over here, but for those listening offline, you see that you can search it up. If you compare Simply Go with EasyLink cards, you see that the Simply Go card does not show the fare at the gantry anymore. Okay, so this is again another problem, especially I think for some of us who live with your parents, for example. Some of them they do use the older variant of the EasyLink card. Maybe they top up huge balances on those cards and use it for other things as well. So not being able to see the fare being calculated, at the gantry when you tap out and in, it's kind of also moving away from that intended UX where this older EZ-Link card came out 20 years ago, right? So it is indeed a very interesting situation, like leading up to this outrage. Okay, and essentially the ghost stun. I think this is the part where most of us, I would say, maybe I'll speak for myself first. And I would say I'm very very surprised when the ghost stun happened. I think this is probably a bit like a unicorn type of event. Never see it like happen too much where the official policy actually gets rolled back from love. So long story short, what's being shown on the screen over here, essentially, if you go to LTA's newsroom, right, you'll find that on the 22nd of January, they actually reversed on that policy to discontinue the older EZ-Link card by the 1st of Jan. Okay, so this is setting the context very, very quickly on, what exactly is happening. So gentlemen, I want to bring this question to all of you. Your takes, of course, as engineers in different domains. What do you all felt from this? What went wrong? And we can talk about the possible solutions as well. Just to note that I mentioned over here as Singaporean engineers, like feel free to jump in as a Singaporean as well as from an engineering angle. Yeah. Anyone wants to take a first step at this?
I just say one thing lah. The when you were showing the difference of features between the card across the different countries, right? Then
Right.
you were saying that for some of the cards, we support that being able to use that card to pay for public transport as well as for motoring. Apparently, in Malaysia, I mean, recently, I went there, which is two months ago or something. They have a card touch and go that supports kind of both motoring as well as public transport. So if in that regard, you can say Malaysia's payment is better. But then again, like I guess the systems there are way different as compared to the systems in Singapore. Like the system in Malaysia, they support a larger variety of customers there, and you see a larger variety of payment systems there as well. As compared to Singapore, Singapore, I guess, is on a smaller scale. It's kind of easy to have to converge to one unified solution. As compared to there, I think I see touch and go. I see like the respective train operators payment modes or something. I don't know. Like each of them, they have like even in KL, like different lines are run by different operators, and different operators have different payment modes specific to that operator, and they even have like the paper based, I guess, ticket based payment as well. So you have this whole variety. So it's just like, oh my gosh, like at least Singapore, we only like we can when you think of transportation, it's just like, okay, this one card you just need to get, and it operates across all of the entire public transport. As compared to Malaysia, just like you have a whole variety. It works like maybe touch and go only works only in KL. Like apparently, from what I read, it doesn't work across all states. So that's another one. I think even in Japan, there's you can say the alternative to the whole transportation system. They say the public transport there is like pretty good as well. It's also not unified as well, right? Like I mean, there
I
is a
think that's
Suica
okay,
card.
right?
That's
Like not
okay.
unified is fine because the idea is that you can have multiple card systems, but as long as you have a unified platform where people can just use that one platform, go in and come out. Like let's say if I'm at a train station, okay, let's say whether in Japan or Singapore, I don't expect there to be like a Suica gantry and a Pasmo, right? I think it's called Pasmo gantry. I don't expect to like have two places where it's for each type of card, but both are on the same, essentially the same technology. I think it's called
IC
Felicia
card.
of which
Oh
sorry?
no,
I believe it's called Felicia or something. Yeah.
okay.
But as long
I
as it's the same system, lah. Same
uh
system, one like whether you're using paper ticket or the tap. I think Singapore had that as well, like at the period of time where we had the paper system as well as the
mm.
tapping system, but it's like one gantry go in and out.
Actually, I kind of agree with what Weiyuan mentioned, and that is as long as that single card that I bought, right, I can actually use it to travel around very easily. I think that's a very good plus point, especially for countries like Singapore, right, where we want to attract tourists, right? We shouldn't be putting too much challenges and roadblocks, right, for people to actually travel around Singapore in the from what I see though. So so coming to that, right? I kind of appreciate that now you can actually use your credit card to tap around and then after that pay for the fares. I think it's a very good feature. I have to give credit where credit is due. And it makes it so much easier these days, right? Because I think all of us got friends who come from overseas to Singapore, like maybe Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on. And now it's much easier to tell them and just say that, oh, you don't have to worry, don't like go and get an EasyLink card so that you can travel around easily. You just have to say that, oh, you got your credit card, right? Simply just tap and then you can move around with our public transport already, and so on and so forth. Much better than asking them to, hey, maybe you want to put your credit card with the ride hailing apps and all these, right? And then they may feel that, yeah, for security reason, right, I don't want to put my credit card number with a third party app or something along that line kind, just for a few days. So I kind of like that. So I think at the end of the day, we touched on something quite interesting here, and that is seamless payment for traveling around. At the end of the day, I think that's what we want. And as that, like, let's say when we go overseas as well, like just what Hairizuan also mentioned, right? Your touch and go can use it to pay for motoring. You can use it to pay for other stuff as well. I think that's something that is very useful.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
I mean, I like right now. I mean, I'm not sure how much has changed at least for Singapore motoring. I mean, I don't have any private transport till now.
Uh.
Too expensive, too expensive. But like I don't know. Like if you see the COE prices, just keeps going up. No matter what happens, just keeps going up. I guess partly you can say inflation is the reason, but the demand for all this private transport is just very high. But that's the thing. Like so in Singapore, there's this the reason why you need kind of this kind of card systems for that is because they are road tolls. I mean, we call them ERP here, electronic road pricing.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So basically, this ERP system essentially kind of attempts, or maybe I guess it's kind of working. So you can't say attempt. It kind of imposes some kind of monetary restriction onto certain roads at certain points of time. So maybe let's say you want to drive to the city area, and of course, naturally, everybody wants to drive to the city area when they are about to work. So there'll be great demand there, and if everybody drives down to the city area, that will be of course leading to like a lot of traffic jams. So one way to kind of reduce that is just to put the price to it. Like, oh, you want to drive? Okay, how about $3 per time you want to come in? And some of them, if they take the most unfortunate routes, they like you get hit by the road tolls over and over again. And I think that right now that's the current system where you drive past a gantry or some sort. It's seamless. Like you just drive. You don't even stop at any booth or anything. Just drive past, and they have this technology that beams your money away from your car or your motorcycle, whatever. And then I think in the future they're installing new ERP new systems onto all the private vehicles, where it's now going to be tracked by satellite or some sort.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how true is that. And it's even more creepy because like now they say that you can there's so many ways to kind of charge motorists. Now you can charge them by where they are. How like maybe it's like it can be like demand based kind of pricing where it just happened that you didn't know that a lot of people happen to be on that road, but then like according to satellite information, they know that that road is now very very jam packed. So now you get charged even more, and instead of driving through a country where it's like you'll be charged this certain amount at this timing, now is hope I don't drive into a traffic jam. If I drive into a traffic jam, I'm screwed. I'm pretty sure if this technology, if this thing is turned on, right, I'm pretty sure we'll face the same situation right now, for sure, for sure.
Actually, I think what you're talking about is ERP 2.0. They call it. They say that they're going to use satellite to actually do distance-based toll, distance-based toll or something along that line, kind of, from what I remember. Which I also agree is kind of like quite scary, though. I mean, I think this is where we probably need the government side, right, to provide more information on how all these are going to be calculated and so on. Otherwise, minds will always run wild, put it this way. Minds will always run wild, yeah.
Yes, it's interesting that they announced that in advance, but not really explain how the entire system will be like. Yeah, road-based toll. That's like distance-based toll sounds a bit like, I guess, like a taxi, but you're driving your own car. Because taxi, you get like it's progressively it goes up, right? I don't know.
I mean, the
Okay, but
argument,
maybe
the argument,
go ahead.
sorry, the argument on that was more like because the money that you beam up, you use the road and all this, right? So you actually create your vehicle created friction on the road and all this, right? So later on, the road has to be maintained, so that's why the road tax come. That's why the road tax come into the picture, lah. But that's another thing to discuss, because every vehicle also have a road tax in the first place, from what I understand, and then now there's also additional tax on usage and so on and so forth. So why would that be? I mean, to some consumers, they will see it as a double taxation. But anyway, we digress. Yeah, we digress. So, yeah.
Maybe going back to originally, I think Hairizuan, you mentioned about touch and go. So maybe you can talk about that system and compare to EasyLink for a bit. So I think it's interesting you brought it up. Like I searched it up really quickly. In its current state, it's a stored value smart card. So that's similar to Suica, Passmo in Japan. That's the same as the old EasyLink card system. I think then essentially, would you say this is a little bit more towards that? Okay, yeah. If we compare to our current system, it's a bit like we what do you call it, regress a little bit by going towards SimplyGo. Like it's not saying entirely regress, but it's a bit like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, maybe something like that.
I'm not too sure, because like I have been the SimplyGo user all this while. I mean, okay, mine is a credit card, right? So credit card is the SimplyGo, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah. Okay. So the thing about the stored value is I have to charge it each and every time. It's not each and every time, but like charge it once in a while. Like when I use it to when it goes to zero, I need to remember to top up. But then if I don't, right, then I will be the guy that will be like, oh, I tap, like, oh, okay, I can't. I need to go and top up. It's, to me, it's like there's a hassle, and I guess it's like, in a sense, I'm kind of fortunate that I don't have to think of like paying for public transport. Like basically, I just use it as a service. It's like basically, I would say I'm fortunate that I don't need to think about like all the little cents when I'm using the public transport. So that's one thing. So that's why when I switch to using the credit card and using that SimplyGo system behind it, I don't see a problem. Like I don't care about the value, because I guess like you won't like it doesn't make sense to show any value, because like basically it's just charged to the card, right? So to me this is like a non-issue in a sense, but I'm pretty sure other people feel differently. clearly according to
Maybe
all the
I'll play the devil's advocate a little bit on the sense that okay, maybe it's not even entirely a devil's advocate. Somewhat true towards my own situation or predicament, in that I also use SimplyGo at this point of time after unfortunately losing my Nets FlashPay card 2 years ago, I think. So I actually transferred due to what do you call it? I guess force upgrade, but my own fault. But the issue being that I stick with that old system because I mean, well, it's a little bit of friction to upgrade, but the main thing being that I could essentially see how much I'm being charged for every single ride, and I think this is something I kind of cool, and we spoke about offline, right? Which is that you kind of can't really see some of what's that, like the cost of that trip now in some ways. Although I think there's a different screen in SimplyGo to see that, but again, okay, the app is also not the easiest to use, in my opinion.
Hey, I think need to bring in a bit of history here. So, okay, so I myself actually will track my transactions. So why I'm checking all the transactions is because I think we talked about this offline before, and that is over here in Singapore, right? When you actually tap your cards, you actually charge the maximum fare, or no, not maximum fare. Let me be careful here with the wording first. You are actually charged enough to go to the interchange. That means the end of the trip. So let's say if you take a bus, right? Uh, I think it's especially for buses, not for MRT, especially for buses, right? Let's say for instance, if I take a bus, maybe 143 from Jurong East. If I take it from Jurong East, right, I'll be charged the maximum fare for 143, right, to Toa Payoh interchange if I'm taking that direction. Yeah, I'll charge the maximum fare, right, until I tap out. Then the whole recalculation will be done again back end, and the charge and the fare will then be reflected on SimplyGo. Yeah. In this case will be on SimplyGo lah, but back in the older days, not really the case. I can't remember where you can actually check. No, I think there's a website where you can check your EasyLink card. They actually provided a website for you to check your EasyLink card transactions. You have to put in the EasyLink card number at the back. And then they will give you a list of all the transactions, and then you can raise up and say that, oh, this particular transaction, right? That's not the actual bus stop that I stopped at. It's actually maybe one stop before or one stop after or something along that line, kind. So because of that, right? Because of that overcharging, overcharging, right? Yeah, let's call it overcharging. People now keep on checking their transactions. So people like me, I won't say I'm paranoid, but I'm a bit stingy with my money. So I will always check each transaction, make sure that the up and down, the boarding and the alighting station or bus stops are per what I know, or per what I took, and so on and so forth. And I also want to be fair here again. The thing is that now with the SimplyGo app, right? Let's say for instance, if a particular transaction you want to raise up and says that this transaction is not correct. That means they book you on the wrong alighting station or alighting bus stop, right? You can actually easily raise a claim on the app and says that, oh, this one is actually not booked correctly. However, there's a caveat here. You can only raise a claim on a charge that is booked, not incurred. I think we discussed this before. Incurred is when you tap in and tap out, the fare is incurred, but it's not charged to your credit card yet. Yeah, it's not charged to your credit card yet. So it's only when the transaction is charged to the credit card, then you can raise up and say that this particular transaction is not correct. Which means there's a waiting period. So if you saw your SimplyGo like today, right? And it just happened that yesterday they charged it to the card already, right? You probably have to wait for 7 days before you can say, hey, this transaction I need to raise a claim. But by that time, you've probably forgotten about it, which could be the case. Yeah.
I think that feels like one of the things that I've been maybe reading up or hearing about, at least in online forums, which is that there's that enhance is not a best word, but enhanced friction in being able to keep an eye on the cost and being able to make the claims for it. As you said, waiting for 7 days. And I think part of it, folks are talking about whether it's predicating on the fact that it's mainly sort of a pay and forget method right now. I think more towards what Hairizuan mentioned earlier on, right? You don't really want to care so much about topping up $10, $20 really. I think the idea is just, here's my card, charge it, and then like the month I have to pay for this anyway, like for this transport. Yeah.
No, the charging part actually, so per what Hairizuan mentioned, right? So if you look at the previous EasyLink, the previous EasyLink, there is actually, I can't remember which version already. There wasn't any auto top up. So there wasn't any auto top up. You have to actually go to a station and then top up, and then I still remember you have to slot in like $10, $20 or something along that line kind into that machine to top it up. What happened was, I think there was this bank, right, this overseas bank, right, decided to introduce this credit card where they can actually do the top up for you, all within the same credit card. So all within the same credit card, you have an EasyLink card with the credit card as well. And what
I
will
think this is Citibank SMRT card because I had that for
I
a
didn't get
while.
any endorsement from them, so I don't want to name them. So
But
anyway,
it's not there anymore from what I know.
yeah, I think it's gone already. So what happened is actually it's a very smart move. So what they did was that the credit card itself is actually a EasyLink card. And what will happen is that when the amount dropped to a certain level, I can't remember how much was it really. I think it's a magical $3 if I remember correctly. The magical $3, right? And then after that they will then top up. You can choose either top up $20 to $50. But each top up, right, they will charge an additional 25 cents on top of it because of using their auto top up system. Yeah, so to speak.
Call it a convenience fee.
Yeah, yeah, you can call it
It is like
convenience.
it is.
Yeah,
Come on,
yeah.
movie, even cinemas have that convenience fee. I would say PS, but yeah, $2. And it was, I would say it's better than cinema. Cinema is like $2 per transaction, I think. If I'm not wrong.
My point on convenience fee will always be as long as it's transparent, right? And consumer has a choice, then no issues. You can charge whatever amount you want. Yeah. Then as long as consumer can choose whatever they want to use, then there shouldn't be an issue. Yeah.
I think this maybe even highlights more towards the positive aspects of SimplyGo in some ways, which is that there isn't that convenience fee there at all. Like you're just using it, you're charged just for the fare of that. But then the big downside is you cannot, like as you said, the fare doesn't come in right away. You have to wait for, I think it's Visa is 1 day, MasterCard I think is 1 week or around there.
It is.
What, 3 days? 3 days.
It-
So it's
it is.
8 days.
Yeah, it is.
Oh
They
wow,
will,
that's long.
they will charge transactions for the past 8 days. Into
Yikes.
the
All at
top.
one
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, all at one go. Yeah.
Which again, yeah, it doesn't, it goes back into the, it's bad for if you are budgeting, especially if you are someone who, let's say, I'm sure for folks who stay with elderly parents, usually let's say you only have like a stipulated amount that you want to use and top up your card. I mean, it's a good way to check if you can see the fare every single time. Maybe I'll use this to pivot to one question, which is, do you all expect this? Like, the like people to have this outrage where, hey, I can't see the fare, when I step out of a station or a bus, as well as I cannot use this in my car. Like this is definitely two different groups of people. But do you expect that this outrage to come out and then this ghost time to happen?
Always happening is kind of expected lah, I would say. I mean, if you look at in Singapore, right? Now Singapore is very different from other countries. In Singapore, most people are public transport users. Most people, right? But whereas in overseas country, that's not really the case. If you look at maybe like from what I understand,
America.
like maybe now let's bring it closer, like maybe Indonesia or Malaysia, right? At least most of the younger teenagers or younger teenagers or youngsters, they minimally they will have a bike. Minimally they have a bike to travel around. Over here in Singapore, most families maybe may have one. I'm not too sure. But I definitely know a lot of people where they don't really have a car. So if you look at it, right, public transport is we are very dependent on public transport, and that means we also do spend a lot of money on public transport. So I think public transport, at least for me, is the top three expenses. Top three expenses and all. So, and the other thing is this: public transport is definitely the lower tier income people will depend a lot as well. And to them, right, money is very, very important. They need to be very mindful, even down to the cents level, right? How many cents are they spending in the different area and all this also. So for them not to be able to know how much you're spending and all this, and even make a claim quickly, right? Even make a claim quickly if they're overcharged might not be good. I kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, which is because we touched on the friction earlier on claiming. I think for folks who have definitely a tighter wallet, yeah, I think that is a very good point there. How about
Mm.
for motoring? Like, I think do you think that would be a valid thing?
What doing?
As in terms of the Simply Go now, you cannot use that for motoring based purposes. Then you have to now support two different card systems.
Actually, to be fair, I don't have my own private transport at all. In my past 40 plus years,
No,
on
no,
this
I also
road.
don't have. Okay,
So,
Harizan, you drive a bit, right? Come,
Yeah, yeah.
tell us your take.
So I have I never knew that the public and the private transport it allows like some sort of EasyLink card. All this while I thought it only supports cash card even till today until until we have like this discussion when you show that picture, right? And it's like, oh, it actually supports other card. But the thing is, right, this I guess this thing is not exactly known. I mean, I did do a quick search about in the past where is it possible to just like put my how could it, put my credit card in the in the what call it in that device, but then like
are you using it?
yeah, I realized that that might be a stupid decision. It's just like asking to be like begging to be robbed. Not even asking, it's like begging to be robbed at the point. Just like, oh, now instead of just a stored value, now I have infinite money glitch or however the bank wants to loan me in a sense. So yeah, it's just like okay, I guess it kind of makes sense that is two systems, but then I guess I don't know like right at this point like to me I feel like non issue in a sense. I mean all this while I've been living with two two card system like cash cards for the private, public I use the SimplyGo card. But the thing is, I also not sure how many people are there that are making noise about this. Maybe the ones that like making a whole bunch of noise in the papers is just like a really minute, a small minority. And then I mean, if we want to say the bigger picture of things, like this probably might get hated in a way, but you want to say in the bigger picture of things, just like is it worth to care about this small minute? Just like they are very vocal, yes, but then in terms of impact, not so much. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the product person in me, just like looking at things more objectively in a way. I would say like I'm pretty fortunate that I can come off with this stance. But yeah, it's just it's just a thought that's lingered in my head. Just like okay, you have these people that I don't really like, but then like this number of people, just like how many percent in the overall picture? Because like even private, I think as mentioned by Koo, like over here, heavy public transport users, which means the private transport users are small, and then among the private transport users, even my dad doesn't even know about this EasyLink card thing. Like he until now uses cash card. He even passed me my his super old cash card. That's like what it feels like it went through war or something. Like just like in tatters, but it's still working. It is solid technology. It still works till now. But yeah, like that system works fine. So who are this minority? And that's why I just like, is it worth supporting? It's good. It's a convenient thing to have like one unified card system across all modes of transport, so that tourists that come in just like, oh, you can use this card for all forms of transport in Singapore. Yeah, it's good, but at the same time, it's just like cost wise, is it absolutely necessary? Is it worth migrating, or is it? I don't know.
Mm,
It's probably the
okay,
same as all the parking SG and everything. It's just like it's good to have, but yeah.
but that's the thing. I know there is probably that a group not sizable, maybe small group of people online who are against changes. Okay, I'm not gonna go to the politics of it, like but to maybe mention a little bit, like it can be not even just because of like of this change, but maybe because of the current incumbent. Okay, but that's another topic for a different day. I think in terms of figures wise, I know the government did release some figures mentioning that if I'm not wrong, I think it's like 30% to 1/3 of the population was still using the older EZ-Link card. And it seems like this is the part that gave them the most trouble, which is being able to get these folks to move across. Okay, maybe I'll use this chance to just bring up a few graphics that I've created over the last weekend, sort of to give like some perspective, because I thought it was really interesting that we have a very colorful history of many different fare cards. And it like the thing is, every single migration was successful because before this. Like, why this particular one that the government actually has to now U-turn and say, okay, we're gonna now support this until at least 2030, which is 6 years away. So this is the 40 million thing that they mentioned about. So yeah, also you just now you mentioned about the old EZ-Link card. So I guess you're talking about this one, right? That I'm circling in the screen. Oh wait, I don't think you can see it, but
No, I don't think I guess, but it's a colorful one. I think the one on the left, the one at the bottom.
no, the colorful one, the EZ-Link. Wait. Okay,
on
okay,
the
you can
left
see
hand
my
side,
arrow
yeah,
here.
the left hand side. The
Okay,
one
this
at the
one is not
bottom.
usable anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the one on the right
Okay.
lah. The one on the right are those that are usable now. But there's a lot of other terms that sort of what's the word called? Confuse it even further, because like you can use like net flash pay and all these, which is part of EZ-Link system, and that's the CPAS what a CEPAS thing.
EZ-Link card. So okay, I let me try and explain this entire thing. So I had the same exact confusion as you, Koo. Like, that's why I decided before coming into this topic, at least one of us needs to research about this. If not, like it's gonna look very weird when you talk about this card system. Okay, so maybe just to start on the history a little bit. I'm not gonna go in too deep lah. But on the screen over here, you can see on this left, right, and folks listening to it offline, some of you might be familiar with this thing called the Transit Link Fare Card. This is the physical card where you put into this red color machine with a bunch of buttons in a rectangle or something like that. If you go into some of the buses, you probably still see those machines today. Like, that machine is still there today because some people need to pay using coin, and then the dispensing system for the paper ticket still uses their old system. So while this fare card does not work anymore, does not exist anymore, but they still use that system. So this existed for actually not that long, around 3 to 4 years before they started moving into the EZ-Link card system. Okay, so this is actually very interesting because when they had this unified card, right? Okay, before the Transit Link card, they also had their own payment system. Like MRT has its own system, buses has their own system. Transit Link fare card was the first time they had a unified public transport card system.
Yeah.
Then they moved to.
Yeah, maybe let me add in a bit of sort of story and color around it also, if I can. So because so this is what happens. So okay, I'm old enough to start using public transport in 1987. So I can share a bit more what happened back then also as well. So for what you mentioned, right? So Transit Link card really is where every buses there's a machine, right, where you have to slot in this Transit Link card. You slot it in, and you're supposed to press for the fare. So it makes an assumption. It makes an assumption that the commuters, right, know which fare to press. Know which fare to press. Like maybe I roughly have some idea it's like 180. Sorry, back then no 180. That's too much already. 120 or 130, and then that's it already. So but unfortunately there are a small group of people who tend to cheat on the fare. So what they do is that they will always press for the lowest and then cross all their fingers and toes, right? Hopefully the inspector doesn't come up and check the ticket. Yeah. So the transit link is where you have to store value on it also as well. And then slot it into the machine, press for the fare, and the ticket that comes out will also tell you how much is left in that transit link from what I remember. So there is still a ticket that comes out from that transit link card actually. Yeah.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. Well, actually, I don't recall some of these details already. When you mentioned about paper ticket, as you mentioned it, yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah.
Besides the coin one, the paper receipt, sorry, not the paper ticket, the paper receipt also comes out with the fare card.
Yeah.
That's like what 20 plus years ago now.
Yeah, please carry on. I'll add in the story as I
Sorry.
The thing is, right, I feel I used that system before, and I remember
if you're born in the 90s, you will use it.
It feels quite slow though. It's just like I remember during boarding time, it's just like everybody is just stuck because there's only one per
There's only one
bus,
machine.
one machine
Yes.
per bus,
Actually,
right?
actually, there is two. There was two after that. Some of the buses
Only
can afford
close with one.
can afford two. Now I don't know whether you all still remember. So some of these double decker buses, right? Double decker buses, they actually have an inlet for one of the machines. So that inlet, a machine there, right? There is one actually from what I remember on the other side. Per now, the tapping in and out, right? Actually, the other side where I think they have their where they store their engine or their medical supplies, either emergency supplies or whatever, right? That side actually has another machine. So it's also the same thing. It's both sides you can actually press and slot in and then press for ticket and so on and so forth. So back then was quite slow. Now Hairizuan pointed out, right? Yeah, back then was quite slow. But the bus driver can be very good at detecting whether a person is paying or not paying. Because you have to stop, right? You cannot be so fast, right? Not like now easily tick, 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 and then just go through, right? Yeah. Yeah. So back then was much slower.
That's why concession cards are so awesome. Just like show
Oh yeah,
and then you just walk
flash.
past. Yeah, flash and then we'll just walk past. I
Yeah.
am the king here.
Yeah.
But I think the EasyLink card was really a huge UX upgrade in that regard, which is that it's also two machines, but it's essentially I guess like 1 second per person. Like if you tap really fast and then you move on, it's actually quite fast. Actually, even SimplyGo, I would think that it's a little bit of a downgrade in that latency aspect, especially if you're using a phone. It detects a little bit slower compared to the EasyLink card, in my opinion.
So what happened with the EasyLink card, right, was also a behavior that was sort of transplanted from the transit link. The transit link. So from what I remember is EasyLink tap in, you have to tap in and tap out. But they realized that there are some people who only tap in but didn't tap out at all. So in order to sort of reduce that behavior, right, what happened is the same thing, which is what I mentioned previously. You tap in, you are charged the maximum fare to the interchange, and you have to tap out in order to get out. Now, however, there are some fare cheaters, right? Quite smart one. What they do is they tap in, right, and then before they go up the upper deck or before they go straight down to the lower deck, right, behind the exit door, right, they'll sneakily tap and then get in. So it's actually just only gonna be a single bus stop, a charge for a single bus stop, and that's it. So again, that's job for the bus inspector lah. That's job for bus inspector. But this is where it happens with you. This is where it happens because you're charged the maximum fare, right? Now we consumers, right, also start to say that, hey, I don't know whether do you charge me correctly or not, and so on and so forth. So now we become a bit distrusting on the system, and you do want to check on the fares whether the fares is actually deducted correctly or not. Yeah.
It's interesting how this entire history of this payment system, right, especially going even before EasyLink card. I'm guessing this is the backbone for EasyLink card as well, right? But I have no doubt that it's built on this. How should I put it? Like because of a small group of people who will cheat the system. Hence, we built the system as a way, like if your entry is missing, we rather penalize you and charge you for full first. It's a very unfriendly system, lah. But speaking of it like that,
I don't know.
Yeah.
maybe going.
To be honest, right, I believe like all systems should be built that way. Because if any system is built with built on the assumption that people are kind, people trust each other, there will be people who will abuse the system for sure. Like anything that can be abused will be abused. It's the same with any software engineering project. You have anything that is like exposed to the public, people will abuse the features, and you will like looking at it just like, how the heck, how do you even find out that this feature even exists? It's supposed to be internal use only, and then you somehow manage to tinker it out and like monkey patch it for your own use or something. Just like, why? So it's the same. Like basically over here, basically all systems, yeah. So I guess like the design, like what Koo was mentioning, of how the design slowly evolved to become more distrustful of its users, it's a wise decision in a sense, because no matter what, if people start abusing it, eventually that thing will spread, and it's like, it feels like almost like cancer, in a sense, just
No,
like
but
eventually.
that's it. It's because in the end, it's still going to be okay. Here's my take on that, lah. That there will be people who will cheat the system. And yes, that behavior can spread if it's something that, especially if it's not, if you don't penalize sort of that cheating behavior. But I feel like that's sort of hitting at the wrong source, hitting the wrong root of a problem. I think the idea here is that how do you actually catch and penalize the people who try to cheat the system, rather than trying to sort of set like a safety boundary where everyone is guilty until proven innocent. And that's like, I mean, that's why I don't exactly agree with that, because if you look at if I'm not wrong, like our legal system essentially is something along the lines of like, innocent until proven guilty, something like that. It will be a very unfriendly system that way for the opposite. But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I am not a lawyer, so please don't quote me on this. Whatever I just said.
I think most of the judicial system, not law system, most of the judicial system is innocent until proven guilty. So the weight of evidence always lies on the I can't remember what's the name already.
Prosecutor?
The prosecutor. Right.
Prosecutor, yeah.
The weight of evidence will always fall on the prosecutor at the end of the day. And I think coming back, the thing is, I also agree. Anything that has to do with money and benefits, right, are bound to be abused. And I kind of feel the thing is, any system should be built to anticipate potential or possible fraud, like setting up the rules and everything else. But I don't at least for me, when I look at this whole thing now, right, now that we're discussing about it, I feel that there isn't such a thought at all when building the system. So and all this fraud that we're trying to prevent, right, is sort of like putting a plaster on a dam or something like that. I saw a dam that's a small leak, I quickly put a plaster there, and then hopefully it stops and all this also. From what I see, like, at least, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite band-aid lah. I think going from that aspect, I mean, okay, let's put it this way. If I made an innocent mistake and forget to tap out, I'm not trying to do any fraud lah, but I'm penalized for the full potential fare, which it's kind of like, okay, but it's not really trying to solve the fraud problem. But again, yeah, okay, I can understand that. Yeah, then how do we figure out what's the most accurate fare? Maybe a better system is needed there. But yeah, that thought is not baked into the system today. Okay, maybe before we digress, I just want to go back into just making sure we finish this timeline first.
Yeah, quite, yeah.
Okay, maybe what I'll do is let me just go to the actual thing, the actual meat of this conversation, which is that if you look at the migration periods for the different card systems across the years, right? You start off with the transit link fare cards, which had an overlapping period of around 8 months with the EasyLink card. Okay, so this is where, right, folks who grew up in the 90s and also before that, right, you would know that the MRT gantry as well as in the buses, right, they support both the EasyLink system as well as the old fare card system. Okay, but 8 months later, the card system, the fare card system is gone by that time. Okay, and then maybe around like 7 years later, when you're going from the EasyLink card to the second generation EasyLink card, which is the C-Pass compliant EasyLink card, right? So this is a second generation EasyLink card. Again, there was like a 9-month overlapping period, okay, while they do this migration of people across before they entirely discontinue it. So the interesting thing here is that if you look at this earlier two migrations, right, they actually did it within like less than a year, very quickly, pump in new system, get people switch the system very quickly. By the end of that 8 months, 9 months, they're on the new system, the old system is gone. SimplyGo actually, if you look at the entire time period, right, it's actually a very interesting model because it kind of goes against the entire like earlier two migrations they had. When SimplyGo was introduced, right? I mean, I'm not sure for folks who are familiar with it, right? SimplyGo has been here for a while. It's actually been here for 5.5 years ago. So had they gone with this migration, right, and finish it in June, right, it's actually 6 years already since they introduced the system. So it's a far cry from when EasyLink card, like the first gen and second gen was released, right, where they only stick there for around the old system was there for around like overlapping for 8 to 9 months. But SimplyGo took a really, really long time off the ground. And I think this was kind of, I feel like as a, maybe from as a user POV and also someone as an engineer, it's a bit like the writing is on a wall type of situation where I figured that probably they had a lot of issues trying to migrate people across. And it really took so long just to even get to the point where, okay, yeah, we're confident enough to try and start pushing, like, in this next half a year. But what do you guys think? Like, looking at this time period thing, of course, not just judging it based on this merits, lah.
There's also one more difference. Like I would say, it's
Mm.
more like a difference in environment variables. It's
Go for
there's
it.
also the existence of social media right now. Social media is actually quite pervasive as compared to in the past. In the past, just like, okay, you don't like a situation, so what? You're gonna complain to where? A forum? Who uses a forum? No, not many. Maybe hardware zone, but then no one listens. No one takes hardware zone seriously, I guess. Like that's just a place where you rent, and then like, okay, that life goes on after that. As compared to now, like when someone complains about it in TikTok or something, I don't even know. Like, what, you make videos on TikTok on it? I mean, I don't know. I don't even have the app. So yeah. So
Talking
something.
about that, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So this TikTok thing, you create this asset on TikTok, and then you'll be like, then it goes viral, and then people in the world watches it, and then, okay, like it becomes a big problem. Like media will say it's a big problem because like some teenager or some adult mention it, but then it's just like, is it though? Like, if in the past, maybe if TikTok existed, maybe will we see the same response? I don't know.
I feel like this doesn't address that root at the problem though. Like, okay, the social media part I definitely agree because I can even say, like, there was like the social media measure that backfired, where I think when this Simply Go thing happened a few weeks ago, right? LTA actually released like this story. They were trying to capitalize on this like ongoing social media trend. And a lot of people commented on that I think it's an Instagram post or something like that, and told them, hey, a lot of people complain on that post that how come y'all did this Simply Go thing very badly, rather than focusing on that story itself that LTA was trying to create like a good vibe from themselves. But I feel like that it doesn't meet that crux of a problem because 6 years left, 5.5 years to 6 years, there must be like some significant engineering problem that they face, or at least adoption. Adoption wasn't planned out very well. People were already like very used to this EasyLink card system. Now they migrate to a system where, hey, if I use my this new card, or my, okay, that means my credit card or my phone to do the payment, right? I don't see the cost anymore, and I can't use it for what's that, paying for motoring based purposes. So I definitely wouldn't want to move as well.
I no, I actually okay. So I do have a question. The question is what's
Mm.
CIPA's compliance first before maybe we
Wow.
want to talk about Simply Go.
Uh, I need to look at my notes.
But having said that, the thing is, I think when Simply Go came into the picture, right, the first group of people that they try to migrate are the people who hold credit cards. I mean,
Mm,
I
that's
don't
correct.
know whether what I'm saying is representative, but from what I understand, at least, right, are moving people who got credit cards to move over to the Simply Go platform. Now, if you look at it, right, people who own credit cards have a certain amount of income. Although not,
Mm.
I mean, not a lot lah. Not, it's like I think 30,000 now minimally you can actually get a credit card already. 30,000 annual income, you should be able to get it, which translates to about 2,500. Was it 2,500? 2,500
Yes, you're correct. 2,500 a month, right?
a month. Yeah, $2,500 a month, and that's before CPF. Most of the banks will actually accept before CPF, from what I understand. Um, so 30,000 means, but if you've got 30,000, right, to a certain extent would be like what Hairizuan mentioned before. Right? There will be folks who will say that, yeah, I just need a convenient way to pay for my fare, charge it, and then
Mm.
I'm not going to even look at how much is it charged, and so on and so forth. And then now now LTA wants to move the other group of people to the Simply Go But the other group of people now, they have gotten used to the fact that I need to see my fare. I need to see how much I have inside my account, because I need to know when I need to go and top up. And when I go and top up, right, there are other challenges as well. Like for instance, do I have enough cash on hand? Do I need to go to ATM and then draw out the cash to top it up? Or can I use maybe Nets to go and top up? But if I use Nets to top up, right, is there additional charges like 20-cent charges or something along that line kind? So I feel that the second group of people that they try to move to SimplyGo, right, are people who are very sense and money sensitive on where each one of them goes to. And that's where I think the bigger challenge comes into the picture. People will start to say, and the biggest peeve that they have is, I can't see my balance. Why you don't let me see my balance? I have to go and download an app. But you're assuming that I have a smartphone in the first place. Right. Again, smartphone these days, not something that everyone can afford. Even maybe now it still costs about $100 or $200 to get a cheaper brand, like maybe a cheaper brand. I'm not going to name which brand is cheaper, otherwise I get sued. Well, yeah, but there are cheaper brands phones are like that cost about $200 or $300 uh altogether. And again, these are folks who may not have the income, right, to go and get a smartphone to download the app in the first place. And from what I understand in some of the other discussion I have, right, this is where some of the lower income tier folks, right, they start to feel that, hey, the government is not listening to me. They are not understanding my plight. Yeah, it's not so simple. Go and download app, you can see the amount. But I might not even have a smartphone in the first place. Yeah. At least that's what I hear. That's what I hear and see on some of the posts, the Reddit posts and forum posts.
I think that definitely is that sensitivities not being looked into. Besides, okay, so I think what you're supposing more towards is that it's not the technical difficulties, right, in trying to get people migrated across, but it's the actual physical situations where they were not successful, or at least like I wouldn't say that they had initial success, ongoing success over this last few years, especially going into COVID as well, where people could migrate. Yeah. But then
Yeah,
this gets me thinking,
Hmm.
why then do this at this point of time? You have 30% of people left. Why decide to make that big switch? It feels like maybe lacking that user research. One thing I heard
But
about.
I mean, they claim that there were user research done, right?
Hmm.
From what I remember, it's like I think there was a focus group of 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 seems to be the number that strikes the most familiarity. So I think they say that they actually did some focus group study on 1,000 people, and then they find that the result was actually comforting to no, not comforting. Comforting is not right. It's reasonable enough to actually start moving these people over to SimplyGo, uh, and so on and so forth. I mean, now if I now if I were to put my data scientist or data analyst hat, right, my question then would be, how do you get your 1,000 people in the first place, right? And then you get that assurance that, yeah, I think it's reasonable enough to move move over to SimplyGo for this 30% people that we are looking at. Uh, in fact, I'm very keen to look at how the study is being made to reach that kind of conclusion, because I can use it as a counter example for my classes. That you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. You have to be very careful how you even select 1,000, even though 1,000 sounds like a lot of people and all this. Right? It sounds like, yeah, it should be a good survey done and so on. But it still went wrong, as we can see what happened. So I think it's good to do some post-mortem. I hope the government actually do some post-mortem on it and try to understand where the focus group was done wrong to achieve that um conclusion. Yeah.
Now the question, the question that is like on the top of my head right now is just like, it's like simply go going to continue with this current state of not being able to show balances, or are they going to do something to somehow try to show balances, because if they are going with the like, okay, we look at all the technical solutions out there, and like none fit the need, none fit the requirement, right? Then proceed on with the no show balance, right? Then you fall back to the how to start migrating the 30% off. And I like one thing that came up is something kind of similar to how Google does migrating people out of Google products. It's a horrible way to do it though, and it's probably a horrible social impact here. I would say that for sure. Um, well, how like there was this Google used to have like okay, I mean still have App Engine, but I think they wanted to migrate people off Python to App Engine. And because like Python 2 is supposed to be deprecated, and like Python 3 is a shiny new thing that everyone should go for now. And security reasons, they will just sum it up there. And but the thing is, right, people have been using like certain product features of App Engine, and like so hard to migrate. It's such a pain. So what one way Google did in order to force people off is they just made their features bad. Initially it was like maybe 5% of the time, maybe your requests don't go through, and then slowly it just builds up over time across the entire year. And that kind of start forcing people to like, okay, I look at the product, just like my product is not working as well as it used to in the past. I have to do something. It's you compare it to a hard cutoff. Like people, the thing is, right, people are just plain lazy. People, like, if given enough time, right, people will do it all at the last minute. So if you even say about the 30%, right, if you want to do a gradual migration, right, and really like go into the world where don't show balance in a sense, because all other technical solutions that they've look into is hard to do, and it doesn't fit the requirement, then they can try to make the whole experience worse for that 30%. Maybe initially they just tap it and just like, okay, a random, like maybe 95% of them still show balance, but 5% don't show. And then as time goes on, more and more don't show. And then now people get used to it, and it's like, oh, okay. Looks like you are all used to not having your balances shown, and no one's complaining. Okay, let's switch off the feature. But I don't know. Okay,
we have a lot to dive into here. This is like okay, so maybe let me first label this first. So I think what correct me if I'm wrong, Harizan. This is essentially something that we see in industries in recent years, especially for mobile phones. It's called planned obsolescence. Essentially, the idea is that rather than having, like let's say 20 years ago, you buy electronics, right? You realize that some of them can last for really long, especially like your Nokia phones, the old brick phone, for example. But then nowadays, right, how come your phones, right, die within like 1 year, 2 year, like very, very fast? So I think what you're saying, somewhat like related to the App Engine example, is that, but I feel like we have to sort of decompress that a little bit. Like, okay, that's something I've not seen too much. The SLA, I don't think they change on App Engine as well, lah. But I do agree with one thing, which is maybe the somewhat planned obsolescence from another direction, which is that you see a lot of shiny features on the newer versions of like Cloud Run, for example, for serverless. And then comparing the App Engine, right? App Engine looks like an extremely old toy. It's like comparing a Nintendo Switch and a Game Boy. Okay, maybe not Game Boy. Like comparing to those even before a Game Boy, like those electronic I don't know, like what's an old gaming console? Okay, I have no idea. Like,
Nintendo
sorry?
Saturn. Nintendo Saturn or something. Saturn 64.
Oh, Sega Saturn.
Yeah, Sega Saturn.
Sega
Yeah.
Saturn. Yeah.
Wrong brand. Okay.
But yeah, I do see that level of obsolescence like that. They make the other products seem a lot more better. Okay, maybe in some areas the support isn't that strong for the older products anymore. Maybe you don't get replies on like those queries, support tickets, sorry, like on those older products as frequent. But they still try to keep to the contractual requirements. Maybe on this, okay, since now we're kind of talking about the solution, right? Because now we're talking about how to migrate. My question I'd like to pose to y'all is, if if the both of you are the Minister of Transport, how would you have done this? To the solution towards like SimplyGo.
I mean, I've said what my thought process is like. To me like that's the thing. I come from a place of advantage, so it's like a bit hard. Like it's harder for me to empathize in that direction. I probably need to like talk to more people to understand why they look at things that way. Because like to me, yeah, I know that transportation is kind of a big fee, but there's other aspects of life to look at. If like maybe you are spending money in other areas besides transport, there's like taking a big cut. But that's my opinion, and maybe it's a very fortunate kind of opinion in a sense. So I mean, come from a place of yeah, a good place in a sense. So that's why you're not thinking. It's hard for me to empathize. Like I need to talk to a lot of people from that side to understand. Talk to people who have like gone through like a lot of problems, and like maybe understand why they are going through that way. So yeah, my opinion is uh what don't show balance. Because I mean, I guess like if we later on, if we have time to discuss about how to kind of show the balance, you will realize that actually it's not an easy problem to solve, engineering wise. That's what I feel. That's why I'm go with the opinion of that. And then how I think best to solve it is to do that Google engineering trick. I don't know. I feel it's a good way to get people off, but it's horrible. It's a horrible way to do
Yeah,
it.
it feels very painful.
It feels very painful. You are forcing people out, and you have a lot of people have a lot of negative reactions to that for sure.
Look, I take on that question a bit first over here lah. I do think that we should discuss like how the solution should be for the benefit of the audience, like to understand back end really not that straightforward also as well. But having said that, the thing is, I think the first when this whole saga actually happened, right? The first question I actually had was not even when I adopted SimplyGo, and that is why wasn't SimplyGo when it was conceptualized, right? To show the fare in the first place. Why was the software system approved at the conceptualization stage, right? Not to show any fares when it's tapped. I think that should be a question that should be explored further and hopefully get an answer from, if as a taxpayer I will ask that. Yeah.
100%
Because
agree on that.
yeah, you see, at the end of the day, we all understand, right? I think some of you have are product managers, some of you have talked to product managers and so on and so forth, right? At the end of the day, if you want to push out a certain product, you know that you cannot differ too much from the existing product in terms of features and functions. You can't have that. And you also have to prioritize which are the functions and features, right, that have to remain in the new product. And goes back again to the focus group that we're talking about, and that is what went wrong with the focus group. Then if that's if in that case, now why was that the case? And then the thing is, because I'm sure spending the money on the focus group is not a lot lah, compared to what our minister now has quoted, right, saying that, or in order to sort of prolong this, we are now going to spend like $40 million just to prolong this. So if you look at it, right, going into SimplyGo and the conceptualizing part didn't even take into account showing the fare deductions or whatever, right? It's actually a $40 million mistake. now if you look from a perspective, now $40 million can pay for a lot of civil servants or public servants a salary already, So yeah, why was it approved then? I think that's a question we really should ask.
I think I do 100% agree with that probably as Singaporeans, okay, and now I take the engineering part away, as
Yeah.
Singaporeans, probably that's something that we have to hold whoever was responsible for greenlighting that decision accountable on that.
Mm.
But maybe, okay, to play the devil's advocate again, to sit in that position and say that, hey, as the government, why didn't we want to have to be able to show the value on the gantry, right? Okay, so I did prepare a few solutions, but I don't think we can go through all of them. Maybe let's just go through some of the much more effective
Probable one.
ones.
Yeah.
Probable ones. So,
Yeah.
okay, just to first answer your question first, right? Cool, right? In terms of why we might want to move on to like something like SimplyGo, where you can't show the value, but you have a much more, I guess, fraud-free system. Okay, again, we're kind of going into the topic where you're kind of penalizing all of your users, right? Because of a small group of people. But it's true that if you have things like a store card system, right, like what I'm trying to show on the screen right now, there was this case a few years ago where you had people hacking the kopitiam card, which is kopitiam is this hawker center or food center in Singapore, this franchise lah, and you can use this stored value card, right, to go and redeem for many meals if you want. So people could essentially cheat that system if you allow it to be a client-side solution. Client-side in the sense that they hold the balance inside their cards. So I guess this, in that sense, is perhaps playing that devil's advocate, maybe why they decided to move away from that. Cool. Go ahead, Cool.
Yeah, I just want to point this out. The thing is this, but the way I look at it, right, because at least how I still remember this news article. Isn't this something that a software could have solved it? Rather, no. Okay. Is it?
I mean, at the end of the day, all software are easy. I mean,
All software will have
so,
bugs.
no,
right?
okay. So from because I come from Kiteworks thing, and it's
Sure.
really scary to see like a daily stream of security vulnerabilities. Really no joke.
Okay.
And I will say, like, my boss was kind of right when he was saying, if there is no security vulnerability announced today, right, we might need to double check to make sure our automations are working correctly or not, because that's how frequent security vulnerabilities are found, and it's really a scary world. Like, you see this top value, right? Okay, maybe one thing is that, okay, maybe just simply storing the number and encrypting it is enough. But the thing is, people can somehow find a way to decrypt it. I don't know how. Like, it's like the same with all this on Android phone. You have this APK. People have figured a way to reverse engineer it and like decompile a APK to divulge out what's inside. And once you divulge out what's inside, right, then people can start playing with all the little things. Like, what happens if you, like, okay, let's say for this top value, like one easy example would be like, okay, it's storing this value, this number of bytes. What happens if I add one more additional byte? What happens? Then maybe that one additional byte turned out to be a buffer overflow, and then turns out when I tap the card the next time, right, it becomes 99999. I win in life already. So that's how easy it is. Like, if the security is not thought of like really well, and it's very difficult to think of like all-encompassing security, because there's always something that's missing. Just, I don't know, it's just how software is right now. It's just like we miss one thing, another security vulnerability. I think recently, like even today also, I was reading about how apparently there's this like secure bootloader that's supposed to kind of takes up the kernel and boots up the entire process of something that is supposed to be secure, but now it turned out that the past 7 years not secure. There's like apparently like somehow or other you can somehow inject malicious code into it, and then that will allow anyone to sniff your entire system undetected, because it's like it's from a secured source. It's from your secured bootloader, which is supposed to be secure. So just that's how pervasive security issues is. So it's like what Weiyuan say. It's like you put things on the client side, prepare. I guess that's my 2 cents. I guess.
Okay.
Hairizuan, I'm so glad you took this point. Oh, go ahead, Cool.
No, go ahead. I just want to say, yeah, my lack of understanding, I'll put it this way, because I do agree that software at the end of the day will have bugs and security issues, because at the end of the day, uh, software and AI, right, are built by humans. Humans will make mistakes. Humans will make mistakes. But I think to the point, to one point that Hairizuan mentioned it, and that is, now at the end of the day, abuse will always happen. Abuse will always happen because people will find new ways to abuse it. I don't deny that. But I kind of feel that in that case, right, I think we should also have a robust monitoring system so that we can catch any outliers quickly, at least. But of course, all these are talk, but in execution itself, that's a different thing altogether. I don't deny that. Yeah, I don't deny that. Yeah.
So I want to jump in by saying, okay, it's a little bit of a joke. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say it's a joke, but humor me. So here's the thing. I agree with the part in terms of security vulnerabilities and us building systems with that mindset in place that, hey, yeah, things can get abused. We should always take precautions if necessary, not trust that user, right, in doing the right thing always. Uh, but if we go on the extreme, I feel like that's not correct as well, because okay, do you guys know what's the most secure software in the world with no bugs?
No code.
Yeah.
No code. Yes, that's also. If you want to build a system with no bugs, then just build a system with no code. Like, yeah, there's no bugs because there's no system.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an exceedingly big penalty we put on ourselves lah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yes, people will abuse it. I think then that's where the challenge of writing these applications come about. Now, okay, yeah, I'm playing again the devil's advocate, because just someone taking one stance, which is on the security point. Now I'm going on the other side, which is that we should still encourage that level of innovation. So that's where, okay, let me go back to the original page. So I agree, yeah, stored value cards, there is that vector, attack vector, right? Because now you have clients holding on to the value. They have infinite time to abuse and try to crack that system. But I think, doesn't that put the onus now on the system, right? Or when I say system, I'm referring to, let's say, like the authority to be able to try and use a system that works. So I also put in this counterpoint over here, which is, I'm not sure if you all know about this in Japan, right? Like Suica, Pasmo, it's actually a stored value card up until today. Even the one on your phone, right, is a stored value card. Okay, it's not that e-wallet thing lah. It's not like in some backend where you compute that value only from backend. That's why when you're using Suica, right, you can actually see the balance. But you can also use your phone for as the Suica card. So what's interesting over here? Okay, I'm gonna try to highlight it. Yep. So you can see over here is essentially this thing called the Felica technology. So the issue is that not the issue. The solution they have bring forward is creating a standard where that stored value card, right, can be placed inside your mobile phone as this Felica chip over here. So as long as this is only for, if I'm not wrong, only for Japanese phones, as you say over here, Japanese phone with that Felica chip would be able to act as your this public transport card as well. Again, there's pros and cons lah, which is that, yeah, maybe from the UX angle, if you have visitors coming into the country, they can't use their credit card, they can't use their phones for this, they have to purchase a card. There is some downsides to it. But I think what they played more towards is that probably for the residents, most of the residents would have already these tools. It's easy for them to just get on board lah. I think that's the counterpoint I want to present here, that hey, actually there is a proper engineering solution for this, and it's there in real life as well. Yeah. Thoughts?
Not really. I kind of fully agree in a sense, but yeah, it's just like um
It makes sense. It makes sense
yeah.
because so recently in recent years, Japan, especially Tokyo, run out of Suica card, run out of Suica and Pasmo, so you only can buy the welcome Suica card. And what happens is I think a lot of us, when we travel to Japan, we kind of box ourselves in and say that we always have to get a Pasmo or Suica card when we go to Tokyo. But in actual fact, the thing is that if you go to Osaka and get the IC card, I think Osaka is some Ikoka or something like that. I can't remember. Is it Osaka or Kyoto? I can't remember. But there's other IC cards from other cities, major cities as well, which you can actually bring over to the other cities that is not where it supposedly hang out to use it, which actually kind of surprised me because at least I thought so. To me, that was a blind spot like back then when I thought I actually have to use a Suica or a Pasmo, but turns out I can use other IC cards. So actually, I think this article will have explained why that will be the case because there's a standard across all the IC cards in Japan. Then yeah, but I also don't know whether this explains why Android phones or Google Pay or Google Pay wallet right cannot have a Suica card or a Pasmo card right now, whereas Apple Pay can, Apple phone can actually, yeah. So I'm not too sure also whether it's this that is explaining the differences between a Apple phone and a and a Android phone.
I mean, to be honest, also the Google Pay also even have issues trying to scan certain QR codes as well in the market right now. I'm not sure whether
Hey,
you
that's
guys.
that's very true. I just had that problem today. Even with PayNow applicable QR codes, it didn't work for me this afternoon for lunch.
Yeah, that's like, oh, then why are you even here? If GPay, the whole point of the whole app is to be able to do all these kind of things in a more
Mm.
streamlined fashion, and you can't even fail to do that. The only reason why you're doing that, right, is because bank apps are just so much slower. Like, I'm not sure, but if you had used the OCBC Bank, for me, I use OCBC Bank for my primary transactional purposes. The login page, the login screen is just okay. It used to be way slower. Now it's still slow, but like GPay is just so much faster. It gets to the payment page like immediately
Right.
as compared to OCBC. OCBC it got slightly faster, but last time it was like super slow. So what I have to do right is login into the bank account, login in a bank app, and prepare to press a button to scan the QR code already, which is kind of ridiculous. Just like I have to do these kind of things.
But I want to be fair to the
When
banks because I worked in the banks before, and that is, um, banks are very careful with your money. Really, really very careful with your money. So they spend actually a lot of money on security systems, security system and encryption systems and so on and so forth. And because technology is not their main gist of it, right? But they still have to push out mobile apps and everything else, right? So that's why the design back end may not be that fantastic. But you can be rest assured they have thought about security throughout the whole design phase. Which is also why I also can understand why it takes a long time to actually log in because they have to go and encrypt, decrypt, make sure it's your identity, make sure it's your phone, make sure it's a phone that you log on most of the time, make sure it's also the time that you log on most of the time as well. So that they know that it is you, and then after that present the information to you because they can't present the information to someone else. They shouldn't be doing that. It's a breach of the social contract. Yeah.
Oh yeah, talking about the encryption thing, right? I remember like I currently have a colleague in my company. He came from the banking space as well. Like he was mentioning that in terms of transferring data between phones, right? Okay, between the phone to the server, whatever. Like they do use JSON, uh, but at the same time, like so you have one layer of encryption, which is your HTTPS layer. And then within this HTTPS, it's like sending streams of data, like JSON blocks and there. Within this JSON block, they have this like message field, and that message field itself is encrypted. So it's like there's two layers of encryption. So when you get to the server, the server had to to decrypt HTTPS traffic. That's one. And then after that, you have to go in, check the encryption standard, and then decrypt the internal message. So it's like two levels of decryption each time. So basically, I guess on the banking server, just like maybe like 50 or 60% of the CPU is just encrypting and decrypting stuff. What the heck?
Yeah.
In some sense, I'll say maybe that's also well thought out. I mean, in the sense that if your request is jumping between networks, right, that first layer is sufficient. But with I guess the second one, encrypting the message itself within a JSON payload, is more so that if on your device, right, within your own home network, for some reason, maybe I don't know, somehow like some your router or whatever is being tapped on, like anyone sniffing on all of the outgoing requests essentially wouldn't be able to at least get like the entire payload directly lah. I guess it's they're really trying to be really thorough as much as possible.
Again, security, I would say I do trust our banking
Mm.
system in terms of security, put it this way. Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, the framework that he was mentioning, I think it was JOSE. So
Jose.
Jose. So the full thing is like JavaScript object signing and encryption. So there's a standard for it as well. We share like holy first time knowing this. And also it's kind of surprising, like so much things that encrypt and decrypt as well. So it's like, oh my gosh.
So
Okay,
anyway, we're supposed to talk about solution, right? So
yes. I want to bring us back. What other solutions would y'all go with? So okay, here's the thing. Yeah, just now we talked about the Suica thing. So one possible technical solution, like assuming we can time travel to 5.5 years ago, is don't do SimplyGo, but do maybe a SimplyGo that is still a stored value card, but now it's on like some chip system. But again, yeah, there's cons to that lah, which is your friends can't use credit card if they're visiting Singapore.
I think we have to jump out from it and say that at the end of the day, what we want from the system itself, right, is we want to be able to see what's the fare deducted. I think that's what we're looking at. So if that's the main concern, right, then the whole system should be designed around it. If you get what I mean. So even for us folks, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure I can say for all of us over here is this. Yes, currently right now we tap, we don't see what's being deducted. We have to go to app. But if suddenly we can make SimplyGo where we tap already, we can immediately see how much fare is being deducted. I think we all will still enjoy it. We all will still say that, yeah, we're still going to use it. We're not going to make any noise out of it because it's an additional feature on it. Right? It's an additional feature on it. So I kind of feel that the solution right now is really revisit the whole architecture, the whole software and hardware of SimplyGo, right? And says that how do we bring that feature up, which is what actually, to be fair, our minister of transport recently announced it, as in he already instructed the team to start putting up the requirements, make sure that we can actually show that to show the balance or show the deductions to the folks at the end of the day, which I think is a good move. It sort of also accentuate the point that this year might be an election year also as well. So anyway, yeah, I think that's a good move. I think that's a great plus point. And maybe we don't even have to look at it for 6 years. Once we are able to solve that particular feature, and that is show how much is being deducted. Yeah.
I would like to borrow two words to put into that, like essentially feature parity, right? Us trying to, the new SimplyGo system has to have minimum feature parity with EasyLink card, especially the main features people are using. Yeah. Okay, like maybe let's not talk about things like top up and all that. Like, I mean, there could be maybe different ways of topping up, like gyro, like maybe the stock what's that? The fare card machines may not be used by a lot of people, but the main things that people care about, like showing the value at the gantry, 100% agree. I think that should have been something they thought about from the start, but it's good that now they're looking at it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully they stay course on that and say that let's reach that same feature parity before we actually try and force another okay, don't want to say force try to go for another migration again. But that's it. Going on that point, how do you think they could do that though? Because now we're stuck with a system where you have essentially you have a dumb, it is, I guess we call it a dumb client, right? All your logic is in the back end right now. So computation is on back end. but it's asynchronous because you don't want to show the person the current value. So all you care about is they tap in, you probably send like some sort of post request to the backend. They start here. They tap out, again, send a post request, journey ended. Then after that, backend will do the computation of the fare asynchronously. Wait, yeah.
I kind of feel that maybe now is a time where we relook the whole fare structure. Yeah, and shouldn't have too many tiers. I kind of feel too many tiers. Right now, we have actually what we call a distance-based fare. No? So what you mean by distance-based fare means that how much you travel on the public transport, right? You'll be charged according to that fare. And our fare can actually range from 109 all the way down to 196, no, $1.96. And it's a very, very gradual, sort of gradual and granular increase. But if you look at some of the other countries, or some of the other transport system, right? Their fare system, what they do is, as long as you travel 1.2 kilometers, or sorry, 1.2 is too little. As long as you travel less than 10 kilometers, this is one fare. 10 to 20, one fare. 30 to 30, another fare. Of course, there's also other arguments as well. Like for instance, what are you asking those people who travel only very short distance to go and subsidize the longer distance? And so on and so forth. So that potentially is another discussion point, to be fair. But I kind of feel that maybe now is a good time to relook at our fare structure and make it simpler. Make it simpler so it's also easier to calculate back end how much fare is being deducted.
Wait, let me see if I understand this correctly. So you're saying because instead of trying to go down to a very granular pricing, as you say, a distance-based pricing, just price it according to categories: 0 to 10 kilometer, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, like something like that.
Yeah, something along that line. So
I see.
because so why I'm putting up this point is because if you look at it, right, if you go down so granular in terms of pricing the distances and all this, right, back end we know that computing is going to be an issue. The computation power is going to be an issue. But if you actually go with, for instance, like a simple category, like maybe only 3 categories, then back end it shouldn't be too much computation. And actually the thing is, what we discussed even before the show, right, is some of these distances can be pre-calculated already. Right? Some of these distances between the bus stops can be pre-calculated, and then after that just extract from a cache or something like that, then calculated very quickly. But of course, this is just a very vague idea yet, if you ask me. But I kind of feel that if we can go into that, that might be a possible solution.
Actually, I like that thought or that solution a lot, which is essentially, yeah, as you said, cash. I mean, all you need is when you tap the card at the station, maybe just do a simple get request of the current value, and do that simple deduction. And I mean, you can maybe even cash the value on your fare card if they want. Like, I mean, but we take it as maybe eventually consistent value. It's not the most accurate one. Maybe they can even show it on the gantry. But a simplified pricing system seems like it could be a way to solve this. Although, yeah, that goes in a different category. Maybe I kind of want to stretch it a little further. And this might go into actually like government, I guess like housing policies and all that, right? But what do you think if we don't even have differentiated pricing? Like, put it this way, I mean, housing is housing. Given the size of Singapore, right? Housing is housing. Like, would you want to penalize people for, let's say, staying like in the the non-central areas of Singapore? You want to encourage people to do that, right? You want to encourage people to go for less popular housing districts. So if someone relocates there, that betters Singapore in some way, because the more important land, right, is used for more important things. Then wouldn't that and let's say we charge this person, right, the same cost. Let's say a person going from Boon Lay to Raffles Place is the same as price as traveling from Tanjong Pagar to Raffles Place. I mean, because it's a public good, it's a social good, right? Charging the same, wouldn't that make even more sense then? Then you don't even need to worry too much about calculation anymore.
I mean, we can go into that. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. Anyway, I'm not talking on behalf of the government anyway. But
Yeah.
as an economist, I'll just say this. How I see transport system, right, is a circulation system for the economy. So fares, bus fares, right, regardless of how you look at it, will create friction in the circulation system. Like for instance, right, for me right now, I kind of feel I have to pay $1.09, right, for my fare for only three bus stops only. I kind of feel it's a bit too much. And I kind of now say that, hey, maybe I don't want to travel so much, even to my office also, because what's the advantage of traveling to my office? The advantage will be I get maybe free aircon, but the food prices is actually not cheaper. Actually, food prices is actually much cheaper at my place, the hawker center that's near my place, and so and so. But I digress here a bit lah. So at the end of the day, the thing is this: fares will create friction in the circulation system, and as much as possible, we should try to reduce that friction. If we are so concerned about economic growth, we should try to reduce friction in the circulation system, which is transport system, as much as possible. So fares will be one of them. I think the other thing is also traveling time, uh, as well lah. Traveling time as well. So coming back, I digress a bit lah, because I just want to share from an economist viewpoint on how we look at transport system and all this lah. Now, if you look at distance, right? If you look at distance, traveling from Jurong, from Boon Lay to Changi Airport, same price versus from Boon Lay to Pioneer, let's say. It will I kind of feel it will create a lot of disillusion. No, disillusionment is not the right word. It sounds a bit too serious a bit. But it kind of, people will say that, hey, why this much money versus you can get a longer distance. It's like you go supermarket, right? $1 in this particular supermarket give you one bunch of vegetables, whereas the other supermarket give you like 5 bunch of vegetables just for the same price. How would one feel in the first place?
I have a counterpoint to that, which is
Uh-huh.
that the idea here is because public transport is only used for one purpose. Of course, okay, there can be more, but I'm saying that the sole purpose is just moving you around, moving one person around. You don't use it to transport goods. You don't like, yeah, it's not used for logistics. Like logistics will be using, like they have their own vehicles on the road and all that. So given that the sole purpose is moving people around as a social group, as a social good or social goods, uh,
Public good, like,
public good lah, public good lah. Moving a person from whatever location A, B, C to another location D, E, F, right? It's just, let's say, like fulfilling a purpose of whether you are going to, driving up like some economic activity, if you're going for some leisure stuff, or if you are going for work, for example. That's my take on that. Like, which is that it's not unfair if you see from that angle. Like, unless if we are going to the point where we say, okay, I purchase a housing within a housing estate that's a lot more closer to my house, and as a result, I feel that I feel like I'm being shortchanged because other people pay the same amount in public transport. But that fare itself is also not a huge difference in my opinion.
but everything that we discuss over here has many different dimensions, right? That has many different dimensions that will set the fare. To say that the fare for regardless of the distance traveled is the same, I kind of feel maybe oversimplifying it. There might be other things involved, like for instance, how would we charge someone? So let's look at it this way, so let's think about this example I have. So let's say, for instance, if you travel from um no, not travel, let's say per road, per 1 kilometer road that you use, right, costs $10 to maintain. From a government perspective, right? Cost $10 to maintain. But now you're introducing and says that regardless of how much road usage it is, right, it will be the same pricing. So how would you price it then in that case? how will you price it so that it's fair? I still can cover my maintenance cost.
You're talking about the railway tracks, right? Not public roads for like
I mean,
drive.
even
I
public
mean,
roads
sorry.
is more or less the same, right?
Mm,
There's maintenance per kilometer road
there
margin.
is, yeah.
I have to pay people to repave the road again. I have to buy materials and all this also, right? So how do we price it so that people will feel, yeah, I'm not priced out, or I'm okay with it because I'm not subsidizing anyone else or something along that line. Right? So
Mm.
I kind of feel that's where if you say it's the same pricing, right, we might be oversimplifying looking at it. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree on that part. Like if, and I know you're trying to draw that parallel in between public transport and private transport, right? And
Mm,
I would say that that naming itself kind of already show the difference, which is if it's private transport, even if it's public roads, you're not like essentially yes, the road itself is the a public good, but your vehicle is not the public good. So you using your vehicle, private mode of transport on that public good, right, essentially
mm,
still incur some level of cost for the economy. And the preferred public good itself is public transport.
mm,
But why the same logic does it extend on both sides? Because essentially itself public transport, like I mean that shouldn't be, as you say, right, friction for the economy, or rather if you want what's that, the it to drive that economic activity, right,
yeah.
whether a person is trying to travel from A to B, right, and the A to B can be multiple times longer as compared to another person from C to D,
Mm,
again also traveling to work, but the idea is just that they're staying in different places, they're still trying to do the same purpose, hence in some ways penalizing the person that's traveling a longer distance, even though they may not be able to afford, let's say, a house closer to city center, and let's say they're traveling to city center as well. It's a form of penalty, lah. Okay, sorry, but maybe I'm digressing too much. I think that itself is a very different, I guess, social economic
no,
debate for a
there are other,
different day.
to be fair, there are other things involved. Like, I'll just say,
Mm,
because there are also urban planning involved, right? Like, for instance, why do you really need to travel from maybe Boon Lay to Changi for work? What if I say now you can work remotely, then you don't really have to spend the money to travel already, right? In that
but
case.
that same thing extends to everything else. Like let's say public toilets at MRT stations, right? Actually, you don't even need to tap in the MRT station to use the public toilet. But I'm
Mm,
sure your fare that you tap in, right? Like the amount you pay to MRT, you
yeah,
are paying for the maintenance of the toilet. And I
yeah.
can say that, let's say throughout my whole life, let's say I don't use that toilet, right? Then why am I paying for it? Like why am I paying for public good? But because it's for the good of everyone, in the sense that everyone is charged equally to sustain that cost, lah. So
Actually, not really.
that's
Yeah,
more of my point.
not really, not really. From a
Really?
point of view, it's a different thing altogether. You pay tax, all right? So your tax is actually paying for all these toilets that you may not be using, or the roads that you may not be using also.
No, but this is SMR, this is MRT.
Uh, uh,
I don't think it's government in that case.
no.
I,
So
th- I
so
think
MRT now. Remember, there was a change in the policy. So all the infrastructure now all goes back to the government. Government is the one that does the maintenance. Contracts,
okay, that's true.
contracts, service contracts are now outsourced, but not the ownership of not the ownership and maintenance of the infrastructure. So the pricing can be a bit of a challenge, to be fair. Uh, um, I mean, we are not policymakers. At the end of the day, we can only debate what we see are possible costs and challenges. And I think going back to the same thing again, I think it's always good that the government agency try to communicate as much as possible to the population so that we can make a better decision on what can be done, what cannot be done, and whether you have done your best, and so on and so forth. Yeah. But
Okay, anyway,
I
I
think
want to say, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, I just but coming back again, like I said, I think the thing is what we need to solve. We need to solve that computation layer. How can we optimize the computation at the end of the day so that the fares can be shared, can be shown when we tap out. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I 100% agree with. Okay, I keep using the word 100%, but because this builds on one of the ideas that actually I wrote down and I told you all before this session, which is the sort of making a simple get call rather than doing just one post call to the backend. Then you do the entire computation to show the results, right? Rather than that, why not just, yeah, if the computation is simple, maybe every day at midnight when MRT is closed for maintenance, buses are closed for maintenance, just download a new policy of all of the prices or the charges, as you're saying, right? The pricing model. Then the next day when operation runs, right, all you need to do is every time you tap, do a get call, get your current balance, and then just do a simple deduction to show, okay, this is the potential amount that left on your card or something like that. And hopefully by the time you go from, let's say, MRT to bus, maybe that value is already changed when you make the second get call when you go on the bus and exceed the bus. Harizan, I think you want to jump in, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I will just say one thing lah. Like whatever thing that we are trying to get across the network, get call to get account balance, or do calculation of anything that's done over the network. The one big assumption here is the network is reliable. It's a very big assumption, and as I think for those who will be viewing this now or viewing this in the future, there's a one assumption that's also said in the policies of microservices or something, is that assumption that the network is reliable, domain DNS systems are irrefutable, like it always works and it always gives the right result, which is never true. Like the problem DNS is always like a bane of some of these network things. Yeah, so that's the thing. Like even when we say, okay, the person taps in this place, right? How can we know for certain that maybe the network in his arrival station maybe it's not working, and then it didn't fetch the results that he tapped into the station in time, or maybe the data got lost. Who knows? All these things could happen, and if this is not taken into account, right, a person, like a group of people not being able to tap out is a bigger problem as compared to us. Yeah, yeah, like a group of people not being able to tap out is kind of a big thing. Like when you got a hindrance to human traffic, and if you got a situation like today, I'm not sure whether you guys went to the train station today, but apparently the circle line has issues again,
Oh yeah.
and and if you have a whole bunch of people that's not being able to tap out or something like that, and all like stop at the turnstile or the thing, then there'll be an issue. So yeah, I say like all the problems with all server based communication all boils down to that network is unreliable. We cannot depend on it completely 100%. Even if we say we would like to cache data, maybe we have this ultimate mega master database somewhere in the center of Singapore or something that's able to send all the data across all traffic station. But what if we come to a scenario where, okay, let's assume that the data being transmitted from the gantry is communicating over wireless. But what we and then they made that the cheapest rather than like having wires all over the and digging through the entire train station just to connect it all up to the server, to a router to send the traffic somewhere. So let's say everything will communicate wireless. Now what if you have a situation like a Coldplay concert? You have like 100,000 people, or maybe more, at the train station. They hog up the network. Now none of the communication is going through. So I'm not sure, but maybe if you have tried to go to such a situation, you try to use Facebook or something, nothing gets loaded. All the traffic is just lost. All the traffic is just being hogged down by other people. So wireless is definitely no go. So you have to use a wired connection. Wired connection also, anything can happen to the wire. Like maybe the wire get frayed, maybe the wire is not transmitting, the electrical signal is lost. Anything can happen. Router, anything can happen. So it's just like so many, like the moment you have all these additional hops, right? It's just so many things can go wrong. That's why, like with I think the current architecture of how things is done just with a simple blacklist of whether a person should or not, or should not go out of the thing, And like, because like basically a blacklist like basically says that maybe it's like they really have to top up, or because like they are really like abusing the system in a certain sense. Basically it's like a blacklist abuse system. It's not a fair calculation. It feels more like a abuse system. It's like trying to catch those who are abusing it in a way. That's what I feel. That's what I kind of think, or I feel that how it's currently designed. So the abusers are going to be a real minority as compared to the entire large data set, which is easy to catch. As compared to like doing calculation for everyone, why not just do the calculation for the tiny minority, the abusers, which I think like the current system does it in a pretty decent fashion. But then again, I fall back to my what I originally feel about the entire thing. Just like, maybe don't show this accounting in the first place. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, but I think you point out something that the thing is this, at the end of the day, if you look at the history of the whole thing, including legacy, right, at the end of the day, we are trying to patch a system as we catch more fraud. Yeah. Now, why not? The thing is, why not SimplyGo becomes okay, now we have learned all these lessons about abuse and whatever, right? How do we bring these lessons in? How do we bring all these lessons from how people really want to use SimplyGo in, and then rebuild the whole system? And maybe I should change the word to simply rebuild rather than simply go. Yeah. Because not easy to, I mean, the both of you are at the tech, the back end tech, and then you think about it, you already got some issues already. Yeah. I only just come from the data and computation side, no. And I also don't think it's an easy problem to solve, because given the legacy that's happening right now. So maybe you should rethink about it, and maybe we should come from a point of, yeah, let's trust everyone, but we have a system to catch the fraud faster, so that we can stop the fraud or the abuse faster compared to last time. Maybe that could be a better way. Yeah.
I feel like the conversation is going towards a very idealistic system. I'm not sure how to continue on that.
Uh,
But go ahead, Koo.
no, I don't deny like, at the end of the day, whatever, like just now I mentioned, all these are a bit motherhood. I mean, when it comes to execution itself, I don't deny that. I think there are still other challenges involved. But I think the point I want to drive at is more of like, maybe let's take a different perspective. Let's drop the legacy burden, and let's relook at the whole thing, redesign the whole thing again. And that's why I said simply rebuild, rather than simply go. Yeah.
Well, it's not our job to think about this in a
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
that's why just like we just put inspirations or aspirations forward. Just like, oh, we hope the system can do this, because like all I want, I already have already. So like I don't want any more changes. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about Cuckoo. Probably like have like more like do you even want the slot balance thing to be shown? I guess it's a good thing to have, I suppose. Or
I
rather
go back to
than
a point. I do want to look at the balance, because there were times that I was charged wrongly. There are times that I was charged wrongly. I mean, okay, to be fair, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I only caught 1 or 2 transactions that were wrong, or missing the boarding. Missing the alighting station. And I claim back maybe like 40 cent or 50 cent, after out the 2 years and all this. But then I'm not going to cover my stinginess or whatever. But I kind of feel that, yes, I'm privileged enough. Maybe 50 cents to me is not an issue. But the point probably I want to drive at would be, there are people who struggle without even the 50 cents. Even though now 50 cents really cannot buy much, if you ask me, given the inflation and all this. But I think there are people who are struggling now. Um, and let's say if I were to really rebuild the system, this is just a thought, just a quick thought. Maybe if I were to really rebuild the system and all this, right, I'll just say that, don't worry, just keep on tapping in and tapping out. We will record the transaction at the end at the back end. But what we'll do is we'll charge you will charge you at the end of a week or something along that line kind. So it can be charged to your credit card, it can be charged to maybe to your POSB account at the end of the day. And so it's something like a healthcare system. Like you go for your healthcare first, but then we talk about payment later. Maybe that could be something that we want to look at, especially for the lower tier income folks.
But isn't that more like SimplyGo right now? Like that is charged later. In some sense,
No, it's because
there,
you're using credit card, right? The one that's
Ah.
struggling to migrate over is those people who are using EasyLink, which is the account based, which is the stock value based card.
So you're saying something like the stock value cut of EasyLink, make it have a crediting feature where, yeah, you just tap it first, then at the end of the week they will show you, and then you decide whether you pay for it or not, or you
Yeah, how you
dispute
want to
those.
pay for it.
Never mind.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's my way of looking at it. Yeah.
So
Then
you
at
receive a
least the lower
bill.
yeah, but I think it's too much a step. This time around, it's too much a step for the government to take if we were to go down that route.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It what you said about the rebuild thing, actually I agree. Like for them to go to that extent, right? It's probably a next generation system already. I don't think this can work for SimplyGo because SimplyGo is backend based. Like I think what you're mentioning probably still okay. Wait, no, sorry. Your solution actually can still use backend. Never mind. But whatever, if we are not thinking about solving using that solution, if we're thinking about showing the balance, then it still needs some level of stored value or cash value on the card. La. So the rebuilding part, I definitely do agree. Yeah. Definitely there's some, if they really want to solve this properly.
I mean, we can go down we can go down this rabbit hole of asking why would people be concerned about how much they are being deducted? Because at the end of the day, it could be because of the frustration of topping up, or it could be the frustration that, oh, if I don't top up now, I cannot go back home today. So if we do a sort of honest basis where that means we just record all the transactions and then you can pay back later, you actually remove all this frustration. You actually remove the need for top up. You actually remove the need for showing the account balance.
Even backend wise also, that will actually be a big positive because like now you don't have to do transactions in real time. There's no need for performance in a sense.
Exactly.
All you need to do is just gather the ID of the cards. And then at the end of it, compute. It's a bulk compute, I guess.
Right.
So it is a big plus, I would say, from backend wise.
Yeah. You can do batch processing. You can do batch processing already. Yeah. And then so I agree. So like what Hairizuan mentioned, right? So I probably will record down the card ID, the boarding station, and the time of the boarding station, a lighting station, and also the time of the lighting station. All these I record back and I don't have to show the balance whatever because I trust that you'll pay somehow or other you'll find a way to pay back later. And the best part is this, you don't even have to ask people to apply for transport vouchers anymore. Because all I have to do is just look at the card. Oh no. If we tie the card ID to IC number. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, maybe scratch what I mentioned because I just thought maybe you don't really have to apply for a transport voucher. No, actually you still do, but at least you can. There's a way to look at your transactions and then use the transport voucher to sort of offset those transactions.
Yeah. I think as long as the events are there, like as you said, just go by starting station, time, blah, 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 ending station. Then that batch computation, do the offset of the discount or vouchers on top of that. Or concession, maybe concession, you can even just don't do what do you call it, the computation, because concession would just mean that this is all doesn't exist at all. I mean, the cost itself. Yeah.
Yeah. And you still can retain your distance based, the current distance based tier pricing. Yeah.
Actually, you can change the policy like crazy and like, you can do experiments with it. Like, how much more will it cost to a certain group of people? Just like, oh my God, you have all this data now. I mean, you have all the data now, but yeah.
True. So
Anyway, Hairizuan, I do want to answer one of your earlier questions that you asked, Koo, right? I just feel interested that I want to answer that, which is you asked the question on, like just now you said your stance is simply go is better because you don't need to see the fair anymore. And you feel that a migration to that just makes sense. Like, don't even worry about the group that doesn't need to see the fair. Lah. I mean, because it's it upgrade in that sense. And then I think, Koo, your angle was different, right? Let me see if I recall. Okay, yeah, you still want to be able to see the fair. I want to answer from my POV, which is that okay, maybe not going from it as a user, but I think going from it from the engineering standpoint, I do feel like this is given that this is a public system at the level of a country, it just seems very odd that when it was first what do you call it, conceptualized. I think just now someone mentioned about, when this idea was first thought about, when it was green lighted, right? Why was it green lighted without getting full feature parity? I think that's a little bit of a problem that, like, is this how we do engineering in Singapore? Like, I mean, shouldn't be lah. I mean, even if that feature is not needed, unless if the feature is used by what 0.001% of your audience, then okay lah. But the thing is, yeah, was there enough user research to say that, hey, this is deprecate this feature, like millions of users on this system, right? But you want to deprecate this feature without even checking if they still need it. I think that is a problem. And then the entire thing where it has took 5 years and you still have 30% of your users on the older system. I think that kind of highlights the whole thing where, yeah, there's something wrong there. Like it seems like a big experiment. What do we call this? The A/B test gone wrong, where your A, right, you do have like people who move to that, but then you still have a sizable like people in the B area who still wants to use the system. They don't really want to upgrade. Yeah,
No, it's not
that's my
AB.
take on that, lah.
It's not AB. It's blue-green deployment. It's basically you have two different systems, and then
No,
you're
but blue green
shifting between.
deployment is saying that you only blue is alive at one time, green is alive at one time. So when you switch over, but this one is a bit like saying that, okay, it's also not really A/B test lah, because your
It's not
A and
AB.
B people can kind of move in each area. But I'm saying, like, if you look at it as an A/B thing, right, your B people, right, which is let's say 30%, is kind of telling you they don't want to move, and it's a bit of a, when you look at it as the outcome there, it kind of shows that, yeah, it wasn't successful lah for this last 5.5 years.
Maybe that's telling
Okay.
that surveys don't exactly, like, survey/focus group don't really work well. Maybe just go down the Google path of, like, just taking something away and just see what happens. Like, you won't know that you will miss the thing until the thing really goes away, right?
For the record, Google, I want to tell you that I love you. Okay. Jokes aside, I think we've hit almost 2 hours in the session so far, and I think we covered a lot of ground. I think that this is a good stopping point. We even talked about some really great solutions. I think Suica was one of it, like, replicating that. There's downsides, but I think there was also another solution that Koo mentioned earlier on, simplified pricing, so that you can actually do caching and easy computation on your front end, which is at the gantry level. Like, it doesn't even need to be committed or transaction committed on your front end. It can be like, yeah, eventually consistent, but just make it simple to compute. I think that these are some interesting solutions. Hopefully, like, in terms of the government, them looking at investing time and effort to now try to really solve this problem before going ahead with SimplyGo. Hopefully they'll do something like this, or maybe like some other solution. We can only see in the next few years now. But that's it. Yeah, this has been an interesting topic. Cool, go ahead.
No, I just hope our government don't spend really the $40 million to maintain it. I really hope it come up with some solution to do it. Yeah, 40 million maybe to the government may not be a lot of money, but to us commoners and taxpayers, that may be a lot that we are paid. Yeah, put it this way. So anyway, I don't go into politics
quote-
so much.
To quote you just now, 40 million mistake or $40 million mistake.
Yeah.
It really strikes true at the heart of it, lah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah,
Okay.
we should stop.
Okay, so let me bring my slides back in. So yeah, I know it's a blank screen right now. I'll change the slides in a bit, but this is the SimplyGo discussion on the engineering aspect on it, also on, I think, some parts of it as us as Singaporeans. And I hope you guys have enjoyed, our bantering over here on the solutions and our standpoints on it. yeah, hopefully we see something good come out in the next few years, and also like taking into account things like the redundancy, high availability. I think that Hairizuan also mentioned, what if the system goes down? Hopefully, I think being able to show that the quality of our engineering as well, so even software engineering hardware at the level of our country. So I'm gonna do a little bit of advertising for the next event. So we do have one coming up next Saturday. Uh, Bam. Okay, so the title of my next topic, this podcast segment is called Tech Trifecta. Like I've invited a product manager and a designer that I worked with before. So wanted to take this chance to discuss about, hey, as a product application team, right? We're building a single application together as a designer to product to engineering. How can we work best together to get something out, in the best way possible, in the earliest time, on the most efficient way? We're going to discuss about different aspects of that and see is that a good answer to that? Yeah. Yeah, just to show a little bit about, yep, so these are my speakers in the coming weeks. Yeah, Stephanie and Shirley. So yeah, I'll share more details on that in due time. And with that, more socials. If you like the content you've heard today, please do subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. Do say hi as well, if you are watching this in the future too. Yeah, so with that, we've end off in terms of our content today. Hope you have enjoyed it. And yeah, have a good night and a long CNY weekend, which is coming right up in the next few days. All right, see you guys. Bye bye, Hairizuan. Bye bye, Koo.
Bye.